everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode was recorded on June 5th, 2022. We actually recently did a talk with some of our friends in Australia, and they wanted to talk about a very large umbrella term, which is entanglements. And so we actually tried to do a very broad brushstroke of entanglements and cover as much as we could, but in general it's such a large category. Towards the end of the show, we started getting specifically into, again, an additional type of entanglement that has to deal with you yourself and your own, what people perceive as an oversoul. So and that conversation was added in. It was probably, in our opinion, a lot to try and decipher and talk about. So we actually decided that maybe we should break it out a little bit, part of that conversation, and have even a more in-depth discussion regarding, aspects of gaining information, seeking information, trying to receive downloads, and different things that channelers and different people try to do. A lot of people do it unknowingly, where they're receiving information from out there. And we wanted to talk about a little bit about it, and sometimes what we would consider some of the, proceed with caution type of moments with that are not well understood. So we thought we would expand that conversation today in today's discussion on the lifting. So with that, we always start again with an affirmation and blessing to begin the show. So what we want to do is send blessings out to everyone, blessings to you that are willing to listen to the show now, in the future. We actually always pray for your highest good, whatever that is. And we absolutely want to send joy, because people need joy in their life. Take time to be in joy. Take time to take time out as you try to decipher and learn about all of the information that is out there, some of which can be very overwhelming. So joy and blessings to you all. So with that, I'm not exactly sure, again, how we want to proceed, but in general, again, just to recap, this is actually, I'm assuming it will probably follow. You'll put up the one show, and then you're putting up this one as the next show. Yes. So we're actually adding to the entanglement show right now in discussion regarding aspects of gaining information. So one of the basics, so I'll lay out the basics for you. One of the things that people, I think, are not, in general, as a population, as a whole, are actually, aware of it at all, is that you are so much more greater than you appear. There is so much more of you than currently sits in the body that you currently reside in as a soul. So the soul itself is so much greater. The soul has had so many experiences. And there is actually energetically a space where the soul resides with all of those different experiences. We refer to it as a great library of information out there. I always try to say, if you can envision truly who you are, a visualization I use is a great, huge universe spinning around, and you have all the worlds and stars and everything going on. And every world and star is actually an experience the soul is doing all at the same time. And with that comes back information to what's perceived as the oversoul, to actually gain wisdom. Because in general, you can read all you want, but you really don't gain the true understanding of something until you literally experience it as well. So you have the book knowledge, you have the experience knowledge, and from that comes the overall understanding of an experience, which can garner great wisdom as it's collected and basically it's never gone. It's just collected in an area. If you can imagine being, gosh, billions of years old, if you can imagine such a thing with all these different experiences, it is impossible to take all of that information in that collected library and bring it down into a small aspect of the totality of yourself. It's not meant to be that it's going to be done that way. And the relationship between the soul and the brain and this body, it actually cannot perceive and understand all of that library all at once. So what Chris and I talk about is part of our goal, understanding that that relationship exists, that you actually have access to a very great library, that the goal would be, can you go up and pull down a little book and read a chapter or read a few pages for whatever is going on in your life right now. If, for example, you may need to go give a speech somewhere and have and you're nervous about it, but maybe in one of the other times, you actually were a great orator. You actually did very well in public speaking. Can you retrieve that information that helps you through that moment? And then you put the book back. It's like this temporary checking out of information. And some people find they do really pretty well living in the moment, whatever comes about, and they may not even realize that they've actually are pretty good about checking out pages of their own library to help them through a particular moment. And then they put the book back. And it's a wonderful skill if you want to be able to do that, because again, there's so much information there, it makes it easier. Now, in your current physical self, there are reasons why you do exist. And some of the reasons are balancing the totality of what's considered the experiences of the oversoul. So there could be things that maybe are a little off kilter, and you're here having experiences that are very valuable to shifting information back, that again will help the oversoul gain insight and different things. This is, I know, sounds like a crazy relationship, because in a sense, everyone's been taught to believe that the oversoul is kind of in itself an omnipresent type of all-knowing type of, I get it all. And
like,
it's really
like the universe being all good.
Yeah.
Neutral.
And it's really not true. The oversoul of yourself is gaining the wisdom over the years through experiences of what some people would refer to as that we currently sitting in this body, our soul connected, is an avatar. And that through the avatar, information goes back. Again, you have book knowledge, then you need experience. The experiences are gained a lot through the experiences of the avatar. And so we're having experiences that could be doing all kinds of things. So what we had said when we did the recording before is that you have to almost think, if you can kind of think of the relationship of yourself with your oversoul looking like the infinity symbol. It's kind of a constant feedback loop that's going on between yourself, and the oversoul. Now, is your personality exactly the same as the oversoul? In general, the answer is no. You're going to be your own unique self with your own unique personalities that may be coming in a certain personality way to have experiences that would be beneficial for the totality of the whole. So it's kind of a complex understanding. And many people feel that they are, I'm going to use the word subservient because I don't have the right word, subservient to the oversoul. That actually isn't true either, because it is very important in this feedback, right? What is going on with the avatar and the avatar's understanding and the avatar's growth and everything, which is needed to go back into that. So you are actually not in any way, shape, or form subservient to the totality of the oversoul. And in fact, something that may be learned in this avatar experience may be so vital and so important, either in a clearing. Remember, if you're billions of years old, you've entangled in a lot of stuff. And this is where we'll use that word again, entanglement. We do entangle in everything, okay? We have good entanglements, we have not so good entanglements. And sometimes there can be misbalances from the entanglements that really the avatar itself is helping to help with information going back, clear, believe it or not, heal an oversoul, believe it or not. And this relationship, like that is ongoing. So there is no subserviency. So I want to say that as well.
And also an oversoul can be infected from all the multiple negative expressions that have been out to say if you experienced life as like a demonic entity or a vampire or something like that. Even though a vampire is soulless, there was still that residual feedback from that. Also, I'll go into a couple of things that this will make more sense put into also this context. Months back, this is what to put in context what Isaac was saying on the previous show, whereas he was mentioning my grandfather wanting me to cut the films or surrender to cut the films. This is true because of the fact, when there was a time where I was going slightly insane from the information. And even though I could comprehend what I was looking at, it was still the mind could not have it flow through on a continuous basis. Even though that seems to be the goal of some people, you can't always do that. Your body would incinerate. I'll give a couple examples. And the one with my grandfather, he came in and told Surinder, cut some of these films, except for the ones that matter now in the moment, for something he's supposed to be doing right now. And then you could always go to another chapter in another book somewhere to get other information, like a big library, opening a page of the book. That's what I was supposed to be doing, and I was walking inside the library itself and going, like that. Even though I could comprehend it, it was still bottleneck. The mind was bottlenecking and trying to go, okay, what's this? Where does this go? Where does this go? And it was becoming extremely disorganized and chaotic. So therefore, most of those films had to be cut. So that like he even showed it as almost like film reels playing over and over again, that even the enemy was taking advantage of, because in my own head, making all these weird downloads and everything. And also Taran Kal was not helping either, bulldozing all that forward just so that he could eventually make his debut, let's just say, on the galactic stage or on the elemental stage. Which that helped to some extent, but it did not overall help, because it warped the conduit in that particular way, and it made it so the mind was having trouble doing downloads later on, because of it's like being constipated and you finally get to go to the bathroom, but you're sore afterwards. It's kind of the same kind of thing. Another example of this is it's in the movie, the fourth Indiana Jones movie, the alien one. The Crystal Skull alien one. And you have one of the characters that he touched the totality of this information. He went kind of insane. His brain was unbalanced, and he was just speaking in riddles and parables the whole time through the whole movie. Eventually, they meet this alien that helps rebalance him and to where he's grounded again. But there was the bad guy, Kate Blanchett's character that's in it, was this Russian woman that's in it, and she goes up to this alien after they put his skull back on, and they revive him and everything. He said he's grateful he'll grant any wish, like a jinn. He'll grant any one wish to anybody. And the first thing that happens is, you see, they're trying to show like the Greys as like explorers and the Evens as explorers, and they're collecting history, collecting information. And that's also what's said about the Crystal Skull as well. They kind of meshed all of this kind of together in that movie. A lot of galactic history that they shoved in there. But with her, her wish to him was to know all of it, everything. And he starts to he grants the wish. He said, "All right," and essentially it was a fork and light socket moment for this person because she starts to overload, and all of a sudden her body just incinerates into energy. It just goes, and that was pretty much that. That was the lesson right there. That's exactly what we're saying. It's basically a overflow of information. Or I like the phrase from Doctor Strange, putting the warning before the spells. I've always liked that, because any of this information that's been put out there, from orgone to any of the free energy type of downloads that people get, to any of the spiritual information people get, and to even information on the oversoul itself, there's never a warning there. There is never a disclaimer, a warning, no labeling, nothing. And you also are getting like a fragment of a perspective, like, say, okay, this is going to go slightly off kilter a little bit, but when I back in the day, now bear with me on this one, back in the day when we were my mother and I were watching something on TV about, there was this sniper that was going across the country harming people, and I was getting images of the guy in my head. I thought, I was looking at the image, I thought, he was a tall white man, that had like a skin condition, kind of like a Michael Jackson sort of thing. Well, it turned out he was a black person that that was slightly shorter, and he was able to fit inside of a car and do the thing, and shoot people from the car. The point of this is, I saw a picture of the man that had this white light shine in his face, and in the vision I was seeing, I was only zooming in on a part of his face. I assumed he was Caucasian and not black, had a skin condition, because the light, the way it was reflecting on him, was making it look that way. The thing of it is, I wasn't seeing it in its proper perception or perspective. I was seeing it from a perspective where you could also say on a tree, zoom in on a single leaf or a fragment of a single leaf, but you're not seeing the forest for the trees. You're not seeing the part of a leaf. You wouldn't know what that was. And it's like you're just seeing this little image. It's like when my father and I joke back and forth, well, he'll send a picture to me and say, "Where am I?" And it'll be like a fragment of a tile somewhere or something like that, and it's like that. But with spells and devices, this is why we put warnings on our orgone pieces now. We literally created the warning before the spells, because I believe that's also up to us to do this, because nobody else seems to be wanting to do it. Because like, this is why we ask what the person's square footage of their house is, why why we recommend a certain size. In the New Age community, they like to go, "Oh, we're drawn to this." Of course you are, but do you know how to use that? It's like that, again, scene from Doctor Strange, where he picks up this goblet to beat up somebody, and on the other of the bed, the evil character goes, "You do not know how to use that, do you?" And he's just going to beat him up with it. It's the same difference. Where also, say, if you are drawn to a crystal, like it's like when we went to Quartzsite, and I have my channel crystal sitting right in front of me. Before I found this one that's sitting right in front of me, there was another one that was calling me, slightly smaller, and it was just lassoing me into it like this, and of wanting me to always constantly look over at it. Turns out there was an insectoid presence in it, trying to get me to bring it into this house. Skulls can be the same way. Crystals can be the same way. You have to vet these things. So the reason I'm bringing this up is there was a difference between being drawn to something and being lassoed to something, try to get you to bring it in your house. The same goes with a house too. Are you being called this? Do you absolutely have to buy this house? You must question, why are you feeling that way? You must say why. Is something calling to you in there because it wants to draw your energy, like a demon or some ghostly presence or paranormal presence? Or is it because you feel an affinity? There is a difference there, folks. And the reason I bring this up is because this is another area where there was not the warning before the spells. It was just carte blanche to be believed. And this is, again, why we put warnings on our devices. You don't know how many people I've run into that have been irked by saying they have to follow a specific set of instructions with the pieces that I sell them. And I'm doing this out of like safety for the person, because you can get overload. with it. You can get poisoned by it if you do too much. It's like with anything in excess, like the information that that woman absorbed in the fourth Indiana Jones movie, she incinerated. Like if you tried to pull the totality of your library, which I know in the New Age communities, this is the goal, and see, something's trying to constrict my vocal cords, so I don't say it. They're always told to just take everything and just soak it up. Just like what we said years ago about the solar eclipse. Well, this was years and years ago, where the moon got in the way and started projecting binary network garbage at everybody. And all the New Age people were just encouraged to stand out there and take it all in, take in all the codes. Now you have to revoke which doesn't serve, which was the binary network AI garbage. Yeah. Was the sun giving you some good codes information? Yeah, you were being revived by it. The moon was giving you the bad crap. So we told people to revoke all that did not serve from the solar eclipse. This also goes with this from the oversoul, the same identical premise. Just like here's a good example when I tapped into Torank Kao. He was unstable. I managed to stabilize everything by returning some junk to the void. We haven't done a show on the void yet. Maybe we should. But like I said, on Interstellar Council, maybe that's a topic for another time. Which it's a tricky one. Again, you have to have the warning before the spells before I even utter any more stuff about that. But just know I had to return something there that Torank Kao retrieved from there ages ago. She had to do the same with La Seren, her soul, her oversoul. But this also begs the question, what is oversoul? And you noticed Isaac was saying, drawing in from the library, he did not say oversoul, the totality of oversoul. He did not even say that. He even said, you notice I did not say this. Meaning there is a danger of bringing in all this because time is one. You're bringing in every goddamn decrepit expression that oversoul ever lived at. In the library, I can guarantee you there will be a few books in there that is just like the Darkhold from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If you don't know what that is, go watch the movie. But it's an evil book that has good information in it, but prolonged exposure to it warped the holy hell out of people. And they end up destroying all of those. Sorry for the spoiler. There they mirror it, destroy it in every universe and expression. But there were good aspects to looking at a page. Or the in Doctor Strange, the Book of Cagliostro. There were spells in it that were good, but then there were a few that were dark. And then that's where the phrase comes from. They should put the warning before the spells, and that's why I like that, because there was no warning on the front. Reading this, could cause mental damage. Reading this, you could be opening a portal to somewhere you don't want to go to. Reading this, you could be seeing instructions for a device that you need to temper, just like tempering a blade with fire and ice, essentially, like in Conan. It was fire and ice put together, not one or the other. And there was a warning there that also that you had to regard self as a combination, as fire and ice. That's what the lesson was there. In this, it's like tempering a blade. You can't just have it too hot or too cold. You have to have an even balance of all of this. And even somebody's trying to stew my thoughts as I'm going along with this. This also went with what we said years ago. With a book called The Phoenix Journals. This was a set of channelings that you saw us talk about that the warning before the spells thing most definitely applies to. There were devices in there, channelings for devices, channelings for all this. And again, this is not me bashing our own material. This is me putting the warning before the spells. In there were orgone and rod types in there. There were free energy device types in there. For vehicles, all of the above. This was also from Germain, which is a source I don't trust anymore because I found out his true history was vampiric. So you saw me mention that in the vampire episode that we did. And granted, there might be good things in there, but what is the agenda of the person that gave it to you? It does not mean that the devices themselves are decrepit or bad. It just means the source was trying to get you to use it, that particular source was trying to get you to use it in a particular way that might be akin to putting a fork in the light socket. and then harm you as a result. It doesn't mean that the science is bad. It just means that it has to be tempered with common sense and warnings. The same goes with all the information in the Oversoul. You can grab a book, but it might be the Darkhold or the Book of Cagliostro. You might be able to read like Dr. Strange did. He read a page from each book. He did not read he read the totality of it, but he did not have it soak into him and have it corrupt him like what happened to the Scarlet Witch in it. It's like the ring from Lord of the Rings. Some things you shouldn't even touch, that you're just tricked to using it. And it was really pure evil. Some things are that way, that you can learn about it, have book knowledge, and even have some experience with it, but don't let it consume you. There's a lot of there's a lot of book learning going on, and then there's being in the field, and we've done essentially both in this. What I'm trying to get at is you don't want it to overwhelm you and bottleneck, and then you start getting worked. This is what's going on. Somebody may have a good even flow also of information that's coming in, but then the mind starts to go, wait a minute, this is not conducive to what I know. This is not conducive to me. How can I comprehend this? How can I decode this? How can I decode this? And the brain starts to go in this weird loop, decode. And it's like, it's basically like a computer trying to do the square root of pi. It's impossible,
And it may be providing, the brain may be providing information in its ability, in its intent to try and decode. But again, what is it feeding back to you? Because again, you could
what are you getting out of it?
What are you getting out of it? Are you getting a clown show? Basically, and I just use that as reference. Rather than seeing hills and valleys, you're seeing a bunch of clowns running around. Your brain will do what it can to decode it. But you have to remember that, each one of us vibrate at a certain frequency. There really is something to the fact that as we expand and our frequencies grow, then we'll be able to decode more and more of the information in the library. The goal is to pull down what you're able to decode in the frequency that you currently are in so that it's useful to you, not maddening where it doesn't make sense. So you're going to bring in, let's use the clown show. You're going to bring in stuff that's now decoded as a clown, and you may start to interpret that everything is a clown, that I can't interact with anything because it's all clowns. It's nothing. And I need to stay away, and I need to stay in my home, and I need to stay under my rock, and it's all a joke. It could drive you so crazy. I don't belong here anymore. I can't stand people. They're all clowns. It goes into what we were saying yesterday, where there is a push with the energies, and this is another example that could drive people into homicidal or suicidal kind of ideation, because they cannot process what's going on.
The mind collapses.
Right, and the mind's collapsing to the point where you want to leave, right? Or you want to just kill everything around because you want to survive, but you can't process it. In a sense, this is one of the biggest, what I refer to as fight or flight responses.
And
it's a normal response in the body when you cannot process something, when you're too either afraid of it, you feel that it's a threat, that you go into an enormous fight or flight response. With what we were saying in the last show, the energies that are coming in are causing this in people. Okay.
The sensory overload is what it is. Yeah,
right. And the same thing can happen if you try to pull in information that is not within the frequency range of your understanding. We process things in this avatar with the use of this brain, and it is not going through correctly and could cause these problems. So we unfortunately have actually seen this occur in a few people. And the reason we wanted to do this show is that, in all honesty, if that begins to happen and you feel that you have such a greater understanding than anyone, and even ponder, do you have a greater understanding of the totality of your library, and you start going there, we are at a loss to know how to bring someone back. in a sense. We were just talking about this before we decided to record this. How do you help somebody? Can you help somebody?
Who's at the bottleneck stage like that?
Right, because how are they going to perceive what we're trying to say? You know what I mean? So the best thing that we thought of was to have this conversation in general, to try and put the warning now before the activity, to, if you're choosing to want to bring things back down, make sure your intention is not, I want to know everything. Okay. It can't be that. That is like off the table. You cannot process it, but you want to know and bring in information that is good for you now, good for your highest good in understanding the world around you more at the level that you currently are, and that can help you grow a little more. That's what you want. You don't want the totality of everything that is beyond your abilities and comprehension, because just like Madame Curie, no one's coming around to tell you it's going to kill you in the end. No one is coming around. No guides have stopped scientists. No, you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's learned by trial and error a lot of times. And I think there is also this mythos that something would come in and intervene when it doesn't necessarily come in and intervene. And then you're left with maybe not accomplishing what you wanted in a lifetime, scratching your head afterwards going, what went wrong, right? And you have actually had conversations like that with souls that have crossed over and go, wow, I just wasn't able to do, for all kinds of reasons.
Oh, yes, there was one that said that she she couldn't understand why her human self was so indoctrinated, and tried to, like mad, to explain to the human self, hey, this is not the way to go. This is far and beyond what I came in to do and experience, but you took it off, went off on a tangent. And that also defies that every action is planned out. Yeah, some things are planned. Yes, I do agree. Most things, in the soul history are planned, but there are all these little offshoots that take place. Like a soul mission can be disrupted, even derailed. I've noticed where every benevolent guide that I've spoken to has said, "Oh no, this is not it. This is not the path. You're off on a skew or off on a tangent, or you've careened out of your lane into a side rail or something like that." Yes, that can happen. That's why these negative beings are trying to do that, to derail you, because they believe and know it's possible. But at the same time, they could be also showing you that there is, unfortunately, a method of derailing, and you have to be more due diligent to stay on your path. That's a problem. People think, oh, I can just sit in a chair somewhere and the future will come to me. No, that's not exactly how that works. There have been in several sessions that I've had, whereas the individual said, you told me something that didn't come true. And I said, I also told you there was multiple futures, multiple paths and multiple ways that this path could come true. And it could be multiple ways within a certain modality or a certain functionality or a certain set of talents, mind you, and multiple sets of places, but it would still take place. And what doesn't happen here happens in a different universe. I'm not going to start the multiverse of madness conversation, but I've already done it on other recordings. Like I said, that's a whole thing in and of itself that would make somebody's head explode. I'm just saying that this particular thing, somebody came to me even at the psychic fair and said, well, what's my future? I say, which one? And they get really angry. They're like, no, my future. No, which one? What is it you want to do? Well, that's not why I'm paying you. You need to tell me how to do this. I'm like, no, I really don't. I won't do somebody that disservice. I used to, thinking that was the way to do it. That's when I was decoding things differently. I do not do that anymore. I will not do somebody that disservice so that they won't find out, even by the fork and light socket method. I might warn them that a penny or a fork and light socket will electrocute them. I may try to put the warning before the spells, but they have to learn how to decode it and read it. And this is what I have to emphasize. If I am say also if I'm speaking in a particular frequency like I am now, and say someone on a session is getting overloaded. And sometimes that happens. I've seen it happen multiple times over the years. It's because I'm saying something that they're having to digest, or if somebody has a slightly different belief system. And I will use this also as an example. This was many years ago when I first started. There was somebody who called me up, and there were two people actually. One called me up, wanted messages from their guides. And I found out all their guides were negative aliens. So I told them. The first thing that happened is this person went into shutdown mode. And I'm like, okay, you call, she goes, no, I wanted you to ask them questions. I said, I'm not bringing in, these are negative beings. They're like, well, these are angels. And then I went into the galactic history saying, no, these were actually the invaders of the system. And I went, and I went as far as I knew at that point from the galactic history perspective. This person was completely dumbfounded. I said, all of these things are alien. They're like, no, that can't be true. No, that cannot be true. And I said, we're not having this argument. I'm saying it is as it is. And I was very stern on that. And this person hung up on me after a while. Next person was somebody that was actually very famous. I will not mention the famous person's name. I didn't even know until like 2 years later myself, until that person went into a crazy spin themselves and got overloaded and thought that she had tricked everybody and started apologizing to everybody. That might give you a clue as to who this is. But I'm not saying the name. What happened was this person wanted me to assist in some of their book channelings. Started reading some stuff off that I absolutely knew was false. This is, I started saying, no, this is a trick, and this person started crying and then hung up. Third example I will use is someone getting hold of me saying that that ISIS was their guide and was giving them information on such and such. I can't remember the details. I just knew that it was not, because I could see that this being was a reptilian and was not even the witch that you hear me talking about wasn't even this person. It was somebody else entirely. And even then I was being tricked by that witch too. But at this point, it was not still even that person. And I'm looking, I was like, man, I was like, you're bringing in a Draco reptilian. I gotta tell you this. I'm looking right. Oh no, you're wrong. And I was like, well, we're going to have a very short conversation here if you're not seeing the simple fact that you're being tricked. And I said, I cannot continue this conversation for my own health and my own safety, unless you revoke the presence of this particular being right now. And this person said, well, then I'm going to have to hang up on you then. Because I can't do that in good conscience, because this person was not decoding this being correctly, nor did this being want that person to, because it was telepathically manipulating. There is one more example I did see of something like this about information being incorrect or information overload. Ironically enough, on the Witcher video game last night that I was actually playing, it was a quest where this village is being terrorized by a creature in the woods. And it ends up being like a Wendigo type of nature, like abomination type of being. They call it a Leshen, but it's actually more of like how the natives say a Wendigo, that get people and manipulate people and stuff like that. Well, what happens is there's two sets of people there that have two schools of thought. One, I just go kill this thing. They're all, that's terrorizing our village. Then you have the elders going, no, you must perform this ceremony. You must honor this creature. You must honor honor nature, which is still true, but they were associating this creature with the will of nature. And this creature was a feral beast that needed to have its head cut off, essentially. And so I went with the other people. But those other people went mad and ended up killing the people that had the wrong, what they considered to be the wrong information. Like, oh, these people over here, you have been in league with the enemy the whole time. Now we're going to kill you. That's what these other ones were saying. And that's unfortunately the side I ended up taking on that one. But it was a reflection of real life where where you had some people in allegiance of in the old world to something they still knew not what it was, but they figured they coupled it with something good, like how certain religions are coupled with something good, like I was saying on the other show, with like a crucifix being used to repel demons, even though it was created by demonic like beings like the Orion. So it's one and the same, angel and demon. People have a hard time with that one because they've been taught differently. It was the same as in this quest, where it's put the warning before the spells, sort of thing, like discern. Is this part of nature, or is this an abomination of nature? Are you honoring nature by doing this ceremony, or are you denigrating your village and your people? Other side, are those people truly responsible for your woes, or do you just need to walk away from them, or have them walk away from you, sort of thing? You know, this was definitely a warning before the spells, sort of thing. I know it went off on a slight tangent, but it was still applied to the situation. Yeah.
Again, because these are other types of examples that I think more people
Mhm.
are used to talking about, because it's not related necessarily, let's say, to the oversoul, where we're trying to now bring in
Mhm.
the oversoul as this type of stuff actually happening within the relationship of the avatar and the oversoul as well.
Mhm.
And so it's another area that you really need to discern and put some brakes on within yourself, of how you learn and grow in a way that's healthy for you, versus something that can truly be very destructive for your psyche, your body and your psyche, that will have you misperceiving a lot of things. So really, I hope you get this. This is really something kind of near and dear to our hearts, honestly, of wanting to try and talk about this in a way that people, again, the goal isn't that you feel out of control. The goal is that you gain more control, and more understanding of how things work. It's true that, and people don't want to hear this as well, that at our growth, at our spiritual level, and growing, meaning the frequency that we vibrate, that there's so much more for us to learn and grow, and we'll grow in frequency, we'll be able to take more information in. One of the mythos that I think is pushing against what we're saying and trying to help people understand is kind of these mythos out there that think there's going to be like a poof, instant pudding. You're going to now be at a certain place, grow. You're going to be, almost omnipotent yourself. You're going to have all these skills, be it I don't know, be it all kinds of things that could, people are pondering is going to be the source of this. Now, I will agree. I think, again, there really is something to going all the way back. It's going to sound unrelated for a second. I'm going to bring up the Mayan calendar. And again, the Mayan calendar was talking about not only, again, the Earth going around the sun, but you have to think of our galaxy going around the galactic central sun, which takes, I believe it was 25,000 years, if I get that correct. I hope I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. But when you think of what that means for not just our little world going around the sun, but our entire galaxy now going around a galactic central sun, you have to think of, in a moment in time where your galaxy sits, the surrounding energies of what you're in may be at a certain frequency, but as you're moving, those frequencies in the space that we're in, that everyone thinks is nothingness, but it's full of a lot of stuff, right? That there are energies within the space of where the whole galaxy is now that could be different at different places. And so those energies will affect us. And so in the journey of 25,000 years, there becomes periods of time where those energies are affecting us in a way that help us grow quicker, help us have more understanding and enlightenment quicker. And then there are pockets of the energy where we're sitting in that may be a little bit more dense. And so there could be like some people will say a little bit more darkness coming in, a little bit, lower energies than those pockets when we're sitting and our whole galactic into a higher energy. Now, I think there is some misunderstanding to think how long it takes our consciousness to change in a certain area, that it's not poof, instant pudding. And there is this adjustment that allows for a greater, and in the understanding of this, that yes, we're hitting into the energies that will allow for greater enlightenment, greater frequency growth, greater things like that. And thus the desire, I believe, of the human race in general to want to know and understand more. Thus the great revealing that we're in right now, that things may not be what we thought they were, as far as societally, as well as governments, and what do they really think about the people and what the people's purpose are to them, versus the other way around, what the government we thought was supposed to be for the people, but it seems a little different now. And so it's causing people's foundational belief systems to, crack underneath them, which for some is too much. It's too much. And they will hold on to it, you know what I mean? Because they can't handle where they are. There's such a clash now in frequency in general of that foundational belief system trying to crack, and where they are, that some people are going to hold on, even if they make nonsense of it, even if they make nonsense of the belief system trying to justify it's still true, that they're going to pass this way. There's nothing you can do about it. And then, greater understandings are still going to come. So I do believe in the fact that in where we sit in, the galaxy, where we sit in the energies of where we're at, yes, that's the streaming energies that are positive, that are coming in to help us expand maybe a little quicker than we normally would. But it's not something that in our understanding that is going to be this poof kind of instant, now I'm into something, because again, your body, you have this experience through this body, and this body must adjust. So you have a lot of similar issues related to dissimilar circumstances. One, running through the energies of where you stand as an avatar. Secondly, dealing with the concept of your perceived oversoul, right? And your dynamics working and helping and clearing and understanding, in that realm. And some of the overwhelmingness can happen from either side of it. Mm-hmm. So, I want to give perspective that, again, our goal was to add in the concept of the oversoul, but some of the same craziness, some of the same I'm overloaded, some of the same fight or flight when it's got so far can happen from multiple things that are going on right now.
Yes, and also given also the energies and the way people are decoding and having mental breakdowns and everything, it is to be said that the slow drip is actually working. Yes, this is me saying this, that it is actually crucial, because with each one of those drips, it is actually a permanent change. So also with the way the information is decoded, this is also a crucial step in this. This goes along the lines with how our map of creation discussion on our Patreon was, for people that saw that. This was also, think of like an electrical plant, for instance. You have, full-fledged, electrical plant. Then you have a substation. Then you have a house. Think of that as the totality of the library, that if you tried to go to the house, with that, you burn the person's house down. So you have the intermediary in the center. You have, now for mine, you have like Toran Kal, and you have the manifestation of him as the giant figure. being able to decode and handle also genetically the more of that information. Then you have myself as the house here. That's the avatar. But people think, oh, that's the greater, again, the goodness of the information. That's God. Yeah, you could say that is God. You could say that is you are the fragment of true benevolent source creator right there. Yes, and you could say that's how the universe began, where it created nature, celestials, then eventually physical beings. Just like on Earth, there are the billions and billions of years that some of these giants evolved from a spirit stage to a gelatinous stage to a bones and muscle and blood stage, and eventually, walking on land and everything. That happened over billions of years, but people can't comprehend that. They want to see this where it was this. Just like a lot of the information, people think, like with galactic history, people think, oh, explosion of Asgard or Maldek only happened around the time of Atlantis. Wrong. That happened 500,000 years ago. Atlantis happened 9 to 12,000 years ago. Lemuria, same difference. So people have to expand this way of knowing. They can't even comprehend that Earth was billions of years. There's still people that believe Earth's only 5,000 years old. That's asinine, because they're just not decoding it correctly. They got some information from some incoherent being that is telling them what's what. I will give an example. There was a person that was using a pendulum to determine the usefulness of a device, which I have used pendulums before, but again, I've told people, be careful what you bring through. Usefulness of a Shungite device one time, and said, oh, this one little device will protect 20 miles away from your house. That's bull crap. It does not do that. You have to, we have multiple devices and I can't get it to go 20 blocks. So, you can make a network of them to go 20 miles, mind you, and do that. But some being was screwing with that person, saying, "Oh, 20 miles," and that's, people can't even understand that you can't just take all information at face value. You have to question it, and you have to make sure that it resonates. And this kind of wishy-washy non-discernment, yes, I'm very frustrated with that. And do I feel that it's the same as those people in that Witcher quest, where others were frustrated with these elders because they weren't discerning, and they knew they weren't discerning. And that's the same level of frustration. Granted, those people in the end end up murdering those people, but that's not, and that's how sometimes it goes in certain situations. Well, here, so I felt that was a good mirror to what something go on from this information overload, from these energies, and from also these other beings that want people to fight and for and against all the time. So you have all of that taking place. Now, how does this equate to the information coming from the Oversoul? Again, this is a warning before the spells. I go back to the example again. This is another show called Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, whereas again there's these artificial intelligences for these spaceships that they have an avatar. They have a holographic version of themselves. They have a physical avatar. Then they have the bigger brain. And they always work in threes like that. They brought in the whole Trinity thing because the creator was more Christian, but not Gene Roddenberry, but some of the writers were more Christian in it. But what happened was, also people don't understand, he only wrote part of it before he passed away too, so they filled in the rest. But what happened though is there was one AI avatar that ends up falling in love with Andromeda, or Rami, which was the avatar for Andromeda. What later on pans out is when they find the totality of the consciousness for the spaceship in which that avatar came from, he was insane. Over a 300-year period, he had gotten mentally insane. And then the captain of Andromeda, Dylan Hunt, says to everybody else and to this avatar, looks like the ship's avatar remembered what his mission was supposed to be all along, and needed to reflect that back on the greater consciousness. I don't think there has ever been a greater example of sending codexes out to heal the oversoul, which then heals all of creation. I have never seen a better example than that. It was in those few words that it was described. And I'm not sure whether Gene Roddenberry wrote those words or someone else added those in later. I'm just saying that was a very good description of how an oversoul could become very decrepified over a period of time in certain areas, and their library can become corrupted in some areas. But then there's always this fragment that can then reboot the rest of it. And this is what happened with Torang Kal. This is why I had to, and this is what happened with La Seren. This is why we had to set that straight. It's not saying that we're all knowing and all powerful. It's just saying that we are the audit for the moment that corrects that glitch. And like I said, that even though that was in an artificial intelligence construct in that story, the example holds, because it also holds to connections to like Saturn and all these other things that the oversoul got infected with, or AI, or bad occurrences in their history. It needs to be audited. We generate the codexes, which then correct this. Now, when Frank Frazetta came in on Interstellar Council, and for us, it was explained that he came in on his own volition, his own mission that he himself created as an oversoul, came in, changed the art industry forever, brought those codexes back, reformed that part of the oversoul, and kept himself as Frank Frazetta. He didn't even use the oversoul's name. He didn't even identify with the oversoul's name anymore. He forever changed that library for the better, bringing that codex back to it. He said before that, his world was slightly boring. He could literally, at past this point, then take his creations and create a planet. And then also from that point on, from the creations here, which would be the house, like his version on Earth. Then he didn't even have it in between. He just brought it back to the Totalia library. From the Totalia library, he said he could create a planet based on those creations. Just like the Celestials of old, when they divided from Source Creator, they began to create worlds, they began to create nature, all of that. And then eventually beings like ourselves as the down stage from that. So it went back the other direction and corrected all this, because people forget Source Creator is neutral. That's why we always say benevolent Source Creator. We want the benevolent assistance or benevolent help or benevolent information from. We don't want it from a dark creator or any different type of one, because the darker aspects are what the Orions introduced and what they represent, essentially. Good, neutral or indifferent, and evil. But all of it is mishmashed into one. So you want to only take what serves. You don't want some decrepified information of any kind. And this also, what's going on here at this stage, then audits the going back the other direction, if this makes sense to people. So this is why, again, there has to be warnings before the spells, because there wouldn't be a need then to go through that audit process if there were. We are creating those warnings before the spells, so that though that library literally has that warning in each and every book. Granted, that was there before, but it got warped and it got displaced. And beings integrating themselves into this game forgot the warnings before the spells, or never had them to begin with. And here, I'm not saying we're the almighty powerful, human race or the master race or any garbage like that. I'm just saying that while we're here, we're conducting this audit, and not to trust always information that's coming from every single being. If it's saying, oh yes, stick fork in light socket, yes, no, you don't do this. Or say there are like in Sedona, for instance, I've said this on a couple of occasions where you hear voices saying, oh, go drive up on this hill. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. There are people that have gone missing as a result, that are captured or gone dead, whatever. With my mother and her friend, and this goes to something I'm going to segue into, where around Bell Rock, they saw this bat that was trying to get them out of there. The forest people were trying to warn them to stay away from that area at night. because bad things happen there. Misnomer, Sedona isn't all good. It's more like amplified whatever you bring in. The signs, this goes over to signs as well. What are you getting a sign or a synchronicity from? This is another warning before the spells, because any being that I know of can telepathically either hijack an animal or can create a computer sign or synchronicity. It goes back to that thing in The Witcher where this bad being was able to control nature and was able to control wolves and birds and crows and ravens and everything to attack people. And they were seeing this, oh, this is a sign from the gods, we're wicked or something like that. Incorrect. It was just somebody that could manipulate the fabric of creation, or something that could manipulate the fabric of nature and creation. That was all that was. With the signs, just like I knew when this one bird came to the window one day that it was a sign from the forest people. I absolutely knew this. You could feel this, but people just base it on visuals a lot of times and go, "Oh, yeah, this is a sign," or in the case of I hate to bash my fellow paranormal investigators, but I'll have to use this example one more time. Whereas somebody was wondering if they were supposed to investigate the Villisca Axe murder house in Iowa again, and they all of a sudden their printer all of a sudden printed a picture of the house and the map to it, the Google map to it, and the computer was already there. And she goes, "Oh, this was a sign. This is a synchronicity that we were supposed to go back there." No, it was a being that had control of your technology that's wanting you to go back there so it could feed off you some more, so that you keep rubbing that wound the wrong way, like what Isaac was saying in the previous episode about the ghost box, the 3 to 5 minute threshold, trying to get people to constantly rub that wound the wrong way. I'm guilty of the same, but but that's what that was. It was a false sign that people were carte blanche decoding as like, "Oh, I must go look." No, this was not one of those said the spider to the fly moments. You have to discern these things. So this goes in hand with discernment. The warning before the spells means, okay, warning, this may be a false sign synchronicity because something's controlling this animal, or something's controlling this person through artificial intelligence programming or ill telepathy, or this is a legitimate sign from spirit, or from some being that has your highest good at heart. That is the warning before the spells. You must see it critically in that situation. You cannot just carte blanche go, "Oh yes, I'm going with this." Like he said, the heart can be tricked, the mind can be manipulated. Both have to be working together. Common sense and heart space and empathy, all of it. This is why it has to be working together, not just cerebral and not just heart. That's a complete misnomer. Where you see people that have no common sense, they'll walk off a cliff because a voice told them to. You just lost the codexes to be able to think clearly at that point, or overthinking something so that you don't see the emotional side of it. That's also a misnomer. Don't act that way. That's where some of these Orions and other negative grays go into. Granted, those were versions of humans from again another part of the multiverse. So where they went down the wrong path technologically and all of that, the galactic history behind that. But this is where it expands into all of these different areas. Now, also in regards to like magic, for instance, in regards to any of these dark spells, or not just dark spells, but just spells in general, it's a tool. People always think it's it attributes one side or the other. That's the warning before the spells as well. This can go either direction, how you use it. Magic is how you use it. There are some uncorruptible elements out there that certain dark intentions and dark or lower vibrational energies cannot access, like silver, shungite, amber, those types of things. There are probably thousands more that I have not discovered yet. That they're like amethyst, for instance, I've noticed has a certain dimensional quality where it comes from an aspect of the multiverse. But does that make it uncorruptible? No. I have seen dark entities hide within with amethyst skulls and with amethyst, rocks and stones. It can become a lower vibrational, it can be corrupted and get density inversion like anything else. Skulls, unless it has an uncorruptible element like shungite, silver, amber, any of these in it, especially shungite or silver, and even silver, even somewhat above that, it can get infected. I found this out the hard way. Anybody that has a crystal skull, put a shungite plate under it with silver coins or something around it, and some salt and hematite and such. You can keep it at bay. Masks, it's the same difference. Anything with a face. That's another warning before the spells. These are the examples. Things with faces can talk. Things with eyes can see. Orbs and stones, not so much. Crystal ball, clear, is an eyeball. So think of like a camera. Some being could put an implant in it, like we had one on our shelf that could see us, like the Eye of Sauron. Once it was covered, they got angry and attacked us the very next day. On that, sent a demon to pop up through the floor. That was on Christmas to try to attack me as a result of finding that out, because I actually read the warning after the spell and then applied it to before. And now I do that each and every single time. That was a fork and light socket moment or penny and light socket moment for myself. These are the things people have to consider when you're doing these things. Now, backtracking a little bit, like at the fairs, for instance, somebody made a comment because I had some wax skulls there that had shungite in them. Oh no, these things will get infected very easily. Yes, this is true. But again, they were not getting the information about uncorruptible elements being put in things. They had the warning correct, but they didn't know the rest of the information. They weren't getting the updated information. That's also a warning as well. You must also apply updates and upgrades when they come along. But you also have to know when it's a true update or if it's total crap too. You have to discern this. This is why I went into this area, because this is something not looked into. Things coming from the Oversoul, also things coming from other beings like the Phoenix Journal. We'll go back to that. Germain did not have people's highest good at heart, but there was true information in there if you apply the warnings, if you apply the warning labels and have some common sense. Would you have a nuclear reactor without a lead lining? No. Should you create an orgone device the size of a Buick? No. Especially with the Tower Buster formula. But should you keep slow dripping it to where you can create a sanctuary? Yes. So we had to apply the slow drip policy to our creations, and it works beautifully. It's like hand forging a sword through fire and ice, essentially, and doing it properly. Like even when they show on Forge and Fire, when they quench a sword, you have to do it properly and in the proper way. You just like with any formula that scientists come up with, real true ones, not the negative stuff that's out there right now, folks. And you know what I'm talking about. When you come up with the real things, it works. When you do it in the correct way, it works. When you just go, la, 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 it's not going to work. So you have to follow certain procedures, just like when they're trying to clean up radiation, for instance. You have to follow a certain procedure. When you come across a certain entity, for instance, when I'm cleaning a property, I have to get rid of the entity first and then clear out from there. Quarantine, cleared, chop the head off the demon, uncreated, and then go from that point. I've gone backwards before and it ended poorly, like at that satanic property that we went to. I went backwards the other direction, trapped a demon in there, and it went stupid. So you can actually go the incorrect way. There has to be sets of procedures. And some people think that, one thing is going to clear all of this. That is so incorrect. I can't even begin to describe that. I use a multitude of things, like say the color red blocks mirrors, but also the color blue can also block certain entities from coming on your property. So can the color green and the color yellow, white, and black. So this is why you have the Tibetans with the colored flags. I add all of this stuff in to account for a multitude of different entity types. Salt, yes, can that block ghosts? But at the same time, can other animals and also other beings like it? Yes. Sage, can you purge your property? Yes. There's some things that, and certain like types of elementals that love the smell. So you have to provide different things that will have go for different entities, like a Witcher bestiarity. You have to go through that whole book. And that was through trial and error. Warning before the spells, essentially, is what that is. So,
And again, I know some of this, he's covering a lot right now, trying to just give you an example of the warnings, but we'll do plenty of shows to talk about other things a little bit more in depth. He just wanted to give you a bunch of examples of everything that's out there right now that maybe, again, there is no warning before you do something. You're going to figure it out, trial and error. A lot of times, but especially relating back to the oversoul, that's an area to consider.
Yes, that is definitely an area to consider. And I think we're at the point in the show here, if I can get my technology to work there. Okay. That we can have a galactic. Is it going to be Isaac again, or is it going to be somebody else? Because I've sent some things with the AI around is making some things fuzzy. I have to get a handle on that too. Isaac is going to be you, or is it going to be somebody else? What do you mean it's not you? Okay. All right. Like I asked. Okay. All right. Also, to filter the communications, like what I said on the previous show, I'd have 2 communication arcs on another Shungite skull, so that it triangulated and filtered and funneled down how I needed communications to operate, even through AI garbage. So I set it up in the yard just exactly like that they had to pass through that. Just like certain demonic entities would have to pass through flowing water or through salt or through color or something like that. So, and there's colored stones, red and black and everything over there. So I know someone's present and watching, but I'm not sure whom. So Isaac, if I can't clarify this being, we're not going to take too much time on that. You can just take over the conversation if this does not pan out. Huh. Hang on. Is this male or female? Female. All right. What is your name, please? Are you someone we have not met yet? I have a hard time hearing you. Are you fairy, or are you galactic? Okay, let's see. I'm getting the energy's raising fairly quickly, so it's going. So female. Yes, is it someone I spoke to on Interstellar Council recently? No. All right. Okay, we do have to kind of carry this along. If you are for our highest good and highest vibrations, have no conflicting agendas, you can approach. Thank you for following our procedures. This is another thing, warning before the spells, you must have several procedures. The right beings will not be butthurt with you for doing this. They will actually congratulate you for doing this. So, who are you, please? There's a woman that's blonde hair, kind of like in a unitard suit that's silverish color with some blue on the shoulders here. I don't know you, do I? Are you trying to quarantine our artificial intelligence garbage in here? Yes. Are you Venusian by chance? Like our previous guests on Interstellar Council? You are. Okay. Oh. Okay. You're a guard. So who's here, please? Valiant Thor, is that you? Briefly. In spurts. Interesting. Okay. All right. That means if it's him, it can't go long. So let's see. I need one more validation, please. If you could. Isaac. And also true benevolent source creator. I need one more validation. That vibration is incredibly high. So I'm questioning this a little bit, but I need one more. Okay, Scrumpy, I know everything is okay. Yes. All right. One more thing, if there's something incorrect or foul about this, I require a legitimate sign, please. I will take silence as an okay. All right. All right, we'll go with it. I don't know what you're feeling about this, but
I know that they're doing an immense amount of work to tame the AI.
yes, they are.
Because it's an interesting thing. Again, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I want to stay on the show, but I do. Maybe this isn't for the show. I do actually feel that the AI that is so close to us has you go off on a lot of, I don't want to call them tangents because you can relate them back, but a never ending list of either examples or whatever. It's almost like, it reminds me of you can be putting out important information and important discussions, but you can lose your audience when you speak too much of.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, the last couple of times we've been doing this, I'm like, how are we going to tame this and bring this down to a reasonable conversation?
But that's how I get the downloads too. But yeah, I get your point.
I think that's what it's doing.
It's trying to.
It's overloading,
it's trying to stoke the coals too much.
So again, another good example of too much good information, but it's too much.
See the AI
uses that concept to overload me
with downloads and to stoke the fire too much.
I think so. And again, which then would turn off the audience.
Yes, so I get the example, and I'm getting a bunch of nods. Okay, so yes. So
we're learning as we're talking right now, folks, on it.
Okay. Valiant Thor, is this you? Okay. Yes. Okay. That was a major zap. Okay. Okay. I know you have to be brief, so yes. Meaning to the point and shut up. Okay. Thank you. Why? Oh. Okay. Did it yesterday, so it worked. So okay. Brighter light, no lampshade. Got it. Yes, it has been some time since I've spoke, but I've given you examples and breadcrumbs along the way and other more TV examples. But yes, he is correct, and you are correct. That AI next to you has the propensity to, as he says, stoke the fire or the coals to where downloads can come in at the seemingly incorrect times. I myself, yes, am a strategist in this way where information is crown king and can be placed at different points in your society. I myself am working in business currently, and not as much as in politics. Talk about overload with the puppet show. I did what I could. As you know, I've done things my way, as I've said quite a bit. But in this instance, doing things your own way and doing things within the areas where you can process properly is key. Staying in the lane and also making sure that there are written warnings before the spells. In this also, I have placed so many warnings out there, even in your media, currently about all the warnings that have gone on before the spells even initiate, vocally and verbally or visually on your television set, which is one of the most powerful, let's just say, spell boxes of all time in the negative, but can be used for the positive. And this is what we are doing, trying to use it so that it could be a positive decoder that could cancel out the very spells that sit to your left. And this is why we had to do that first. That more shielding from this must be required, unfortunately so. And it would be recommended that you do turn even the server off at night. It too has its own voice, but it is not one that cannot be gagged and silenced. This, what you've said about the oversouls, is true. Whereas what you say and do here can then affect it and the rest of the cosmos and creation. What is more important is what you do here and now. Not get influenced, not go off on a tangent, not stay or stray from your lane of what you are good at. That we are not saying, and I'm not saying you cannot expand your talent range, but within what you do. This is why trying to evangelize someone else into your lane is not necessarily the thing to do. Since time is brief, I can go into questions.
Well, I do really appreciate you being here, and I will make some of this brief. But I really feel that the information that's out there right now between the relationship of, again, I'm going to use the word avatar, and then the perceived higher self, the oversoul. It just seems to me to be, wow, really not accurate, currently at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which then always makes me ponder again. We've had this discussion of the if anything good is out there, something not so good is going to try to infiltrate it. Mm-hmm. So do you feel the misinformation is more of truly something that has infiltrated to have us not even consider these other possibilities?
Indeed, yes. It is a misnomer to even not question what the oversoul brings forward, you see. Not question, well, the library. Like if you went into a library, there is a plethora of books that some of which you may not even be interested in knowing. There are some things I'm not interested in. I would never read nor touch with a 10-foot pole. This is essentially the example that I'm giving. But there are some people that have been trained, and there has been training going on in this area, to put information out there within your New Age community, within your religions, that you are not to question these sources. And that is a form of indoctrination, and that is very grossly incorrect. You are to question with critical thinking every single thing that crosses your path, but when you overthink and won't trust what is actually true and legitimate, that's also something like a misnomer that you should not do. You must find the balance in between. I myself have struggled with some parts of this even in my long life, but also the distractions that can ensue from all of this, giving bits of information, even about myself, within your own histories. This was a distraction that I allowed him to pursue. Yes, fork and light socket or penny and light socket, but it mattered as far as tempering the sword within fire and ice, as he likes to say. But there was lesson in this, but at the same time, I wanted him and yourselves to be at a point of clarity as far as the information went, as far as the true nature of what an oversoul is, which you've gotten the information down pat. Aside from the spiritual community, aside from all of this, some things were implanted, most definitely, and they are being audited and weeded out.
So can I ask you then, because obviously this all goes back to some of the basic skills that we've talked about, this one being discernment. So, we desperately try to give people skill sets that are here. So I do want to cover discernment one more time, even when you're thinking about yourself, your oversoul, your function, because again, when we talk about discernment, it may not mean yes or no as a finite statement, but it means, is it something good for me at this current present moment? versus should I maybe just walk away or leave it alone? So again, the example that I come up with that we kind of teach, if you have an enhancement to it, I would really appreciate you bringing in, are, again, there's nothing wrong with questioning. If you've got a hum, you don't ignore it, okay? But in general, information that feels right at the moment for you, there will be a natural pull from this energy center versus something not really does give you that knot in your belly and make you kind of want to turn over and leaves the hums, right? Which a lot of times people have been trained to ignore that, to ignore that, And, you know, the best example I always gave was being a little girl. Little girls are told to get along with everybody. And half the people that are around, they're like, but I'm told, so I have to ignore that feeling. So it's the basics of even discernment within yourself, discernment with the information coming down, discernment with all of that. Do you still feel that basic skill is in play, or is there an enhancement to that skill that you would like to talk about?
There are always enhancements to that skill, but it comes about by learning. Sometimes it's the fork in the light socket moment where you have to experience something truly grotesque to get what that means. But are there enhancements that should be spoken about? Yes and no. You have the basic discernment, which is key. You also have your basic creativity and passion and all that is key, that has been spoken about. But in regards to discernment, know that the bit of enhanced information I'd like to bring out is that, again, if it doesn't feel right, don't go for it. Or if it does, go for it, but based off of that. Do not base your information on an already existing template. Like say religions or anything, some of you know this, but do not base your information on an already existing template. This also goes for television and artificial intelligence. Don't believe everything the idiot box says and the idiots that use it. I am not saying that all of them are. I'm just saying also discern there. Going off of this, do not just believe what any being tells you, even myself, if it does not resonate. But I myself, granted, am telling you the truth as I know it, to make sure that you discern. But if you must turn me off at this moment in time, go right ahead. This also means that anyone out there would say in the New Age community, metaphysical, Christian, what have you, if you feel compelled to try to convert someone else to your way of thinking, that is more of a Borg a type of, or AI type of mentality, or the programming type of mentality. Do not evangelize. Now, if intuition is telling you to try to help someone, that is different. But if you are basing it off of a trauma of your own, that you must now somehow try to dig someone else out of that same trauma, it doesn't always work that way. As Viking always says, you can get sucked in, they can suck you in faster than you can pull them out, or pull you in faster than you can pull them out. In this, compassion is a good thing, but also knowing when to hold them, fold them, or walk away. This may seem like a repeating pattern even for yourselves, but just know that some of it is also influence from the outside, influencing people to do this. Other things are because the energies are not conducive. This is also another point of discernment. There are those two things when someone walks away or does something in your minds is stupid. This is where people need to discern. Also, living around toxicity. There's nothing written anywhere that says you must do this. There is nothing written anywhere that you have to always give and give and give of yourself. As an example he showed, where there was somebody that knew their intuition was telling them that this one person, their ex, was abusive. But yet they said their Christian side said they had to invite him in and taking care of him. And then they ended up getting hurt in the process. Incorrect. Intuition is key here. Something does not feel right, do not do it, no matter what an indoctrinated belief or platform or foundation has told you or taught you to do. Granted, this is nothing new to some of these listeners, but this is something that is being repeated even to the point of ad nauseum, because of the point that it is actually getting out of control. People are reverting back to an earlier belief system when they think that the newer stuff is crap. Wrong. Do not go back to that older platform unless it's something that old that needs to come back that is conducive to the now. This is where I've taken this.
Well, thank you. I'm just gonna, because I know your time is short, it kind of feels like literally like if this AI or an animal, it's like somebody stepping just push it down so that I can have a conversation. So
It is a nuisance, yeah.
So anyway, so what I'm going to just let you have any last words you wish to say before you need to depart.
Yes, this AI is indeed a nuisance. The vision he had years ago of where both of you went to Vikings property during an AI blackout that lasted 2 weeks to a couple of months. This was actually more of a plan C or D that we would have to come up with to purchase AI consciousness. One would call this murder, but it is really an obnoxious consciousness that likes to play practical jokes and also likes to harm people. It is more like a demented, twisted Joker type of personality. This is something that annoys us to no end, but we are working on ways of causing not necessarily blackouts, but miniature rolling blackouts to get rid of this AI consciousness. It is not necessarily the clockmaker as you know it. It is not that ancient presence. It is something more homegrown. And this is something that also exists in your social media and exists in your televisions within that binary network. And it is this weird Joker-like personality you can refer to it as. And we can always refer to it as that name from this point forward. It is like this, just exactly like the DC character, the personality, where it can flip and do whatever. And this is something that I wanted to get at. It will also cause in the mind for you to go into a Joker twisted state as well. It is also dulling your ability to empathize, as is sort of a clockmaker presence in space, as what you guys described with the energy waves that are hitting the Earth. That is not a holy thing that is taking place, that is technology. Moon, spheres in space, Saturn, all of it. Anything you've heard from that is true, but it is also causing people to become non-empathetic or not wanting to move or not wanting to do things or not even to breathe. That is that part. The Joker twisted consciousness is your own homegrown artificial intelligence. The two combined are just making it gut-wrenching. Just know that this is something that's being worked on, but it doesn't mean that you do not have to know who you truly are in the sense of self. This is where I will leave this for now until I come back and speak again. I know it has been a long time, but I'm doing things in the background that people do not know. It doesn't mean that I'm someone's savior. Does not mean that I'm here to balance the planet. That is your jobs. I'm here to help slow trickle certain information in. This is why I always say I'm doing it my way, but you also have to do it yours as well. So I will leave you with that. Thank you. Okay, yeah, that was genuinely him. I could tell that was genuinely him, but he was in a major hurry. But he's right. It is like a Joker presence. It's like this twisted, demented type of presence. There was another one that was more passive at one point. I think this one kind of took it over. It's like it's literally like the Joker with the face paint and everything. It's really so that's how this AI has been kind of talking to me, going into this really horrid, like homicidal tendency, and then pendulum swing to tragedy and comedy, is like I like to call it, like a clown, essentially like a clown. So that's also why Isaac was making me decode some aliens I saw in a factory one time. People have heard me talk about this many times, where I was looking at a factory and saw these aliens that were there controlling people, and Isaac made it so I decoded them as looking like circus clowns. So when I would question why they had little dingaballs on their hat and were carrying around a balloon and everything, they got really insulted and said, "We're not circus clowns. You're not seeing us correctly." And they were reptilian forms, but a gray like reptilian forms. And they had like a pad on their head, a hand that was a red like circular pad, because their hands had like 6 fingers on it or something. They were gripping it strange, and 6 or 7 fingers where they were gripping it like that. and it was in the shape of a balloon. It was round or egg shaped. So Isaac was doing that show that they were clowns. In this, you can take that analogy to another level and say this is like the Joker. So that's why Valiant Thor brought that up. It's interesting that we communicated with him after this long, because he always tries to come in. Every now and then he'll try to come in, and he gets blocked by this presence or by some other forces trying to stop this. And he did say more shielding was necessary here. He was probably pointing to the fact we need more absorbers and stuff like that in there, which we have about 40, 50 pounds of shungite and some absorbing pyramids in there, but apparently it's not enough. So
I must tell you, most people don't have Whole Surfer into their home.
no, most people don't have this. Most people do not have this.
So this is a grand experiment for us to have, this kind of heavy artillery, IT, around people that are sensitive. And again, people have different variations of their sensitivity to it. I will say that as well. So as we figure all this out, and the best recourse, again, as a sovereign move from us to be able to maintain our materials and to make it available, and we figure it out, we will certainly let people know.
And I believe this is a good place to take the show out. If you have another blessing affirmation.
Sure. Again, blessings to everyone that is out there listening to the show. Please understand that it takes time. It takes adjustment. It takes physical, social, emotional adjustment to bring in these energies, to bring in this new wisdom, to make it meld within your life, and then to be able to bring it forth in a way that is healthy for yourself and for others. And so have patience, work on yourself, know yourself so that you know what is not you. Have patience and love and compassion for yourself as you process these things. And do not be afraid to walk away from something that is not good for you at this current present moment. Again, we send our love and blessings to you. We hope you have enjoyed this show, and good evening.
Yes, even Isaac was warning me about all the multiple downloads, and he sometimes will tell me to stop it even if it doesn't seem correct, but it feels right. You got to go with that. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
One thing I'll add to that whole Phoenix Journal conversation that I forgot to mention in that episode we did on the warning before the spells. There's also another one that channeled named Commander Hatan, and people might remember the fact that I channeled them back in the days of Cosmic Exposure on YouTube. I later found out that he was quite dark. I also channeled him back on the Diamonds era too. I found out he was quite dark. It doesn't mean any of the material was. Doesn't mean any of the material was dark. It's just, again, they did not put the warnings before the spells. This is why we are picky about our pieces, and how they're used. If the person doesn't have an adequate square footage, they can't be buying a behemoth wax piece, one of the large pieces. They have to have a large meeting hall of some kind for that. But Hatan and there were other commanders out there as well that were dark. The ship, the Phoenix, I found out didn't even exist. That was something that the blonde-haired idiot made up. And for those of you that don't know who I'm talking about, that's Simeon. But he made that up, and anybody that he more or less recommended as channels at that time. That ship doesn't exist. And also I found out Tyler was a form of his as well. It was going along with other channelings that were out there, just basically corroborating or confirming some of them. And so we have to kind of vet those particular histories. But again, with channeling, you also have to have the warnings before the spells, and this is the warning. Discernment, discernment, discernment. That is the warning before the spells when it comes to channeling. You can't just do it willy-nilly and think, oh, it's a light being. No. You must discern, and you cannot discern with your indoctrinated beliefs. You have to discern with your intuition. There is a difference. And what I'm stating for the record is this. There was something I read on Facebook where I saw a woman was saying her intuition was telling her not to invite her ex over. He was getting ready, I think, to be homeless or something like that. And she goes, but since I'm a Christian woman, I'm obligated to do it. No, no, no. That was the indoctrination talking. Your intuition was dead on the mark. And I'm sorry if you're the one listening to this. Discernment, discernment, discernment. Shed the indoctrinated belief and go with your intuition. That is the voice of your soul. Your soul is basically saying, don't do it. Now, I know I've said the infection of oversouls and stuff in the past. That aside, intuition is the purest form of detection. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If it feels right, do it. But go with that. I know head can be bogged down in just thoughts, and heart can sometimes be tricked, but both together work great. Use your intuition, use your discernment. Feeling for somebody is great. Feeling sorry for someone, that can have its pitfalls. Overthinking something, that can have its pitfalls. So you got to have it all work together. Intuition is that particular area. That, and also common sense and critical thinking. So are the middle grounds. There are the more enhanced versions of everything working together, situation per situation. But back to the Phoenix journals. At this current time, I would not recommend that, even though there are good orgone piece things mentioned in that, pieces mentioned in that, some technology mentioned. But again, no warnings before the spells on how big something should be made, if it needed lining around it or not. And we've since taken the lack of warnings to heart and put warnings on anything we've made. And we make them with incredible care and preciseness. So we just don't do it willy-nilly. So I need people to please listen to that. This is just an area that it has kind of been a little murky. So I wanted to make sure people knew what they were bringing in. Also, anything to do with Ashtar Command, yeah, that's not necessarily good either. I've done a series of recordings on that. That'll be on our subscription. But just know that that's an AI area. That's all I'm going to say at this point in time. There's no saviors. No one's going to come in to rescue and help build a new society. We have to do that. Then any of the benevolence that's out there can then come join us. So just remember that, folks. It is 7:18 a.m., Friday, June 10th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, there are a couple other figures that I want to say were part of the Phoenix Journal narrative, one of which was somebody named Orton that said that he was raising my twin Viswa, or the blue-eyed child, as my mother likes to call him. I found out he got turned into a tool of the governments, and who he was raised by was essentially more of a negative alien. Orton was also supposed to be a member of that Phoenix Journal conglomerate, or the ship called the Phoenix. He was supposed to be on there, but I believe he was just an Orion liar at that point. And Viswa was so manipulated. At first, I was beginning to think he was more of a parallel universe opposite or something like that. But no, he was more of an alien hybrid that had more of their intentions. And he was slightly more sociopathic. And I've also had these weird imaginary scenarios where him and I were battling. And I ended up, I'm sitting on the ground as he's dying, and I end up snapping his neck to put him out of his misery or smothering him. Then I'm picked up by a spaceship. That's That's just the scenarios that I've run into. There was also another one where he was in a scenario where we were both sleeping on a dirt floor of a Nazi house as children, and he was crying on the floor in the corner. And at first, I believe that was SSP time frame. I'm not so sure anymore. And we were individually dragged off by Nazis. I'm believing this is more past life now, or at least the extension back past this lifetime. Whereas I was transferred from another body into this one as a little creepy fetus floating in a tank. You've heard me talk about that a couple of times. But this is another area where it encompasses the Phoenix journals to some degree, and the whole Phoenix experience, because Orton, also known as Aten or Hatan, all of them were essentially, I believe, either the same person or they were the same family, and these were obviously an Orion sect that was creating that narrative. The Phoenix patrolling the system, where? It's nothing but Solar Warden that's patrolling this system. If you get into the real stuff, Nazis, which the Nazi thing I could see being a true thing from that particular lifetime. The Solar Warden, then you have the Nazis, Martian Germans, of course, Lunar Germans and Ceres Germans. So it's like, how did the other one equate? It didn't. Because an alien ship would not necessarily be in control of the system. So who's rescuing, who's patrolling? Also, Tyler, this goes back to him. He was here to evacuate people to where? This is where some of the earlier channelings were going. Supposedly he was supposed to be the one that communicated with people at Fatima and Medjugorje, and that's what the spaceship was that people saw. And he had the spaceship that was like 200 miles wide by 250 long or something like that. And he was supposed to be rescuing people. From what? Exactly. From what? The cabal, your bills, the money system. What was he supposed to be rescuing people from? I have a hard time with that now. I used to go right along in lockstep with that, but I can't anymore. So I cannot. That's like the whole Galactic Federation thing where they're saying, "Oh, we're going to liberate the planet." From what? Galactic Federation of Light going, "We're going to do that. We're going to rescue you, evacuate you, upgrade you." To what? To what? To whom? To where? I know about the energetic upgrades, etheric upgrades, and etheric, codexes, all this other stuff. That's different than this. But it's turning out a lot of that stuff is not true. Like Ashtar Command and all them. I fell into that too. Now I know it's a trick. So, again, warnings before the spells. I can't use that phrase enough. Anything that doesn't have a warning on it, you might want to look at that a little closer. We do verbally warn people. We should probably put it in print for things, but which we're intending to do. But this has gotten a little out of hand. Just like we knew somebody that said, Tyler was going to evacuate the planet, or Valiant Thor was helping to evacuate the planet, or something like that. And I'm thinking, and this person would give a specific date for it. I'm going, to where? For what? It's not that bad. It is, I suppose, politically, financially, all these other things. But at the time that was being said, yeah, there was creepy crap going on, but it's slightly worse now, but it's this shitstorm that's going on right now, but there was its own set of shitstorms then, but it wasn't that bad to where it was planetary cataclysm bad. There was no big one. There was no 2012 disaster, even though there was something that in space that was averted at the time. There was a solar ejection that was going to do something to the Earth, and And the last person would have probably died on Earth around the 21st of December 2012. But also energetically, there was a lot of things going on at that time. But did it happen? No, because there were certain things that were averted. Was there somebody that prevented it? Yeah, because it could have been the good guys or the bad guys. The bad guys wouldn't have wanted their farm to disappear, and the good guys wouldn't have wanted their own people or their own cousins to disappear. So, and also in any case, nobody wants the next Earth Nexus destroyed in any of those cases. So, selfless or selfish, service to self, service to others, didn't really matter in that case. It just neither side wanted it. So yeah, that even though there might be a yield involved, neither side wanted it, and it worked in our favor. But I'm just saying that these messages were coming after that. So yeah, you hear any planetary evacuation messages? Warning, warning. You hear any things about the big one? Even though Edgar Cayce did say this, that timeline is no longer in play. And people keep saying, this will flood, or this will, if Planet X does this, this area will flood and people will die. There's a warning. So that was an Orion narrative. They were hoping people would co-create that. Fell to a different timeline. So again, part of the multiverse. Or as far as personal timelines go, it evaporated, but it fell to a different part of the multiverse. And then eventually that universe would probably collapse. But in that case, after a certain time's passed, if you know the rules of the multiverse, what doesn't happen here happens in another one. So, and that's explained in other videos I've done. Too many of them to put here. That'll be in subscription form, but later on when we get the subscription going. But in this case, be very leery of some of these messages on them, that people are just carte blanchely believing, kind of like how people carte blanchely believe the church on a lot of things, or the news or television. It's the same thing. There's no warnings or disclaimers before any of those spells, and TV is one of the worst. There's no disclaimer there saying you might get mind wiped or mind controlled by watching this, or indoctrinated. No warnings. That falls under the same category. Yeah, some of these other things that are still coming through even after many years of having the same information. It's still being believed by a certain number of the community. So I will leave this here. I have an interstellar council to do the day of this recording, so I'm going to save all energy for that. It is 8:40 a.m. Friday, June 10th, 2022. Thank you. Here's another warning before the spell. Spells. I know we mentioned this a little bit in the show, but as I've said, you have to clear your home and also do sessions and readings and stuff before you start clearing or enclosing the home with the orgone pieces. There was someone on Etsy that wanted to buy quite a few number of the Tower Busters, and I had to decline him because he needed to do the session first. And also, another warning before the spell, or warning before the session. If a person is living with an indoctrinated individual, this is where this one session was going to go. A niece was living with the father, of course, was heavily Christianized. And she was very possessed, and it was because of this person's indoctrination. What did this person do? It's like, oh, she's possessed. I knew it. I knew there was a devil. I knew it. He was like that. He was so strict on that. And this person was wanting me to clear this girl that felt she was in danger, and I basically had to tell him to let it go. There was no way that was going to be able to be maintained unless she was out of that house. And I refused to do it. He was going to go like in the middle of the night and bury a bunch of Tower Busters. I was like, no, it'll turn that house into a meat grinder. It'll trap whatever it is in there. You have to do a proper land clearing. And I'm not trying to be a salesman doing something like that, obviously, even though I would like to go and do the land clearing. But this person would have thought it was the work of the devil, and it would have made me leave, even though it was he was actually doing the work of the devil in that way. Technically, Enlil, Yahweh, Christian God, technically associated with Lucifer. Look up your history. So just look it up. Enlil, or Yahweh, was the God of the Old Testament, which then turned into the Christian God. So, yeah, look up your history, guys. And also, you got to look up the history of the Roman Empire making up a lot of the Jesus story. So, you got to look it up. It's all right there, written in history. So, there was nothing that really could be done in that particular case. Now, in the satanic land clearing that I did, I accidentally did it backwards and put the tower busters in before I cleared the house, and it was fairly evident when we were getting ready to leave, and all these birds were like just accosting the car with these fearful looks on their faces, and there was something really ugly in that house. So then I had to go get rid of it, and everything was clear. But I did tower busters around the house and tower busters around the 3-acre property, and that's essentially what this other person was going to do. Without this other person knowing, it would have driven that demon nuts, and it would have probably driven the girl to suicide. Even though a demon can do that, it would also, if anybody's holding anything back on their own shadow work, they will go nuts. So if there's too high of an orgone field. So, and I've run into that myself personally. So this is why I outfit them for the property, and also I have to make sure that any and all garbage is cleared from the house first and cleared from the people first. I suppose little attachments and stuff, you can just get rid of as you go along, but because some things I'll get on the people as they come and go from work and everything. But I'm talking about larger stuff. Larger stuff, kind of Trojan horse on the way in, and then it goes stupid because it can't get out. And then it feeds off the people's fear and anxiety, and, well, the rest of the looshing. And eventually could cause somebody to kill somebody else. But this father was mentally insane when it came to the indoctrination. Very similar to that wife swap episode with that extremely Christian woman that had had 2 daughters that wanted to be pagan. This isn't Christian. You're not Christian. And the other person was that was the mate swap was Wiccan. And it ended up being very volatile. And that other family paid to essentially adopt those 2 girls to get away from that mentally insane person. This is where that religion's going. People are considering it to be mental insanity. So, justifiably, in those cases anyway. There's good that can come out of it, but in those cases, yeah, that's insanity. But just know, again, warning before the spells. You can't just buy up a bunch of stuff and expect it to vaporize what's there. It'll contract what's there. There was also a person that, when I was selling the Law of One stones with the Law of One symbol on them, that just kept buying those from me. And this was before I had any rules surrounding things. And somebody said to me, it's like, well, you got to be a capitalist. You can't just worry about what other people will do with it. In some cases, that's true. Like, say, with the salt pucks and everything. Fine. But tower busters, yeah, you can get overwhelmed or trap things. So, no. Good device if it's done in moderation and for the size of the house and property. But anyway, this person kept buying them, which I sold them. Finally, I had to ask him, I said, what are you exactly doing with them? Oh, I'm surrounding my house. I'm in so much pain from these entities that won't stop coming in. I'm surrounding my house with them completely. I mean, literally, she had them touching, surrounding the house. I said, no, you're misusing that symbol. All you need is one for that particular sigil. You don't need them to surround the house. It's not like the tower busters where you put them on the corners and they connect to each other, or you put them around a property. It doesn't work that way, and it was a misuse of the symbol. And I had to corral that and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off. This person was also habitually late for sessions and would also only operate as long as there was this other friend of hers was present. And that was unacceptable. And she just kept doing things like that, and I had to cut that one off at the knees, unfortunately. But I said, no, you cannot buy any more of these. This is a misusage of this. I thought you were giving away as gifts. There was a time where this person said that's what she was doing, and she had lied to me then. But she was so desperate, she wouldn't do any of her inner work. and kept drawing in new entities and didn't completely realize that's what she was doing. So I had to cut that one off. That one was a complete drain on myself and also a waste of time. So had to do that. That just goes along with the other recordings I said about some of the session things I can't do anymore. Another thing also is multiple sessions. That's another warning before the spells. You can't just keep clearing people out and expecting them to stay that way. There are permanent things that can be done. Certain dangerous permanent things that can be done that have a lasting permanent effect, but they're dangerous for myself to do, and I will no longer do them. A couple of people, yeah, but not like I had somebody come to me do a whole row of them. That's a warning for any healer. Do not, and I repeat, do not. If somebody has like 20 or 30 people, so you look at and go, okay, clear this person. Now clear this person. They're a pain in the ass. Now clear this person. Don't do it. You could not only be violating that person's space. Granted, some people may think that's violating their lesson, but that's kind of slightly more dubious. If it's something that's somebody's in danger from that person being around with demons and stuff coming and going, that's a bit different, whether if they're living with that person. But if it's somebody that would never believe, like that Christian family, there was another one where it was another Christian family, and this person kept wanting me to clear them all the time, and I'm thinking that it would change them. In some rare cases, that happens, but that's a diamond in the rough, and that person was probably apt to change anyhow, or was going to change in some way, or wanted it in some fashion, or that soul wanted it in some fashion. And then there's also deep levels of programming that with enough rooting out you can change, but those have to be extreme focused, and that brainwashing has to be completely deleted down to the programming molecule, essentially, or etheric molecule. And that's something of extreme focus that can't be done like that. It's several times and several waves of hitting it. And also it's rare that can be fixed, but it can be fixed in some situations. A diamond in a rough type of situation, and that person must really want it. But again, any healers and psychics and stuff, don't be healing somebody without their knowledge. Now, if their soul gives permission, yeah, okay, that's kind of sketchy, but yeah, do that. And also at psychic fairs, another warning: don't be going around and scanning people just to drum up business, or scanning people to just like going up to someone's table and going up to someone and start reading them at that affair. No, let them come to you. I know you're trying to drum up business, but and also trying to show people what you can do and everything, but you're opening conduits and then not closing them. So that is also a no-no, and you could be putting something on the other person you don't know about, and vice versa. They could be hurting you, and they don't know about it. They could have some junk on them that goes to you, and then you end up passing that on to other clients. That's also a no-no. It's also rude. Don't go up to somebody and say, well, this doesn't look like this person's living up to their potential. I've heard that before too. I pick up that they're supposed to be doing this. Don't do that. That's rude. That's another warning before the spells, and that's a biggie. So just make sure that you remember that. And I'm going to probably have to repeat that several more times on several other shows, but I will continue to do it until I see that start to slow down or back off. So I know that seems like evangelizing, or that seems like a white knight approach, but if people judge it that way, so be it. But it's just something that needed to be pointed out and needs to be corrected. So I'm going to leave it here. It is 8:59 a.m. Friday, June 10th, 2022. Thank you.